Very
We
tough.
had a problem.
Oh,
Now
okay.
he's repeating himself. What is that?
Fun. And I met this woman who is
This is the exact same shirt that I wore in the very first video on my channel over 5 years ago. And the reason that I'm wearing it is very similar to the reason why I think so many religious people find satisfaction and contentment, purpose, and meaning in religion. But I'll dive into that more towards the end of this video. One of the most common questions that I've been asked as an atheist is, without God or without religion, how can you have any kind of meaning or purpose in your life? And it sounds kind of absurd off the cuff because, as an atheist, I'm like, well, yeah, obviously I can find purpose without religion. It's easy to come up with my own purpose and find my own meaning in things. And it's easy to throw out quotes like the one by Dan Barker. Asking, how can you have purpose without God is like asking, well, without a slave master, whose slave will I be? But it wasn't really until this last month that I started to understand why so many Christians find such deep-rooted meaning and purpose in God. And I also started to realize why it's problematic to go there. Like, on a deeper level, I started to understand. I think it's safe to say that this pandemic has hit all of us pretty hard. In addition to people losing their homes and their jobs and loved ones, we have all been battling to stay healthy, not just with our physical bodies, but with our physical minds as well. Not being able to join sports teams or go out and exercise or be around people and get that interaction, it can have a really negative effect on our mental health. Exercise especially is incredibly important. There's multiple books on the chemicals that are released in your mind when you exercise and how that helps stave off depression and helps you to be able to have a good, solid working memory and not be anxious all the time. Well, about a month and a half or so, I got in an accident at a skate park. I hit the entire left side of my face. You can still kind of see the scars there on the side, and there's like some stitches above my eye there. I had to go to the doctor, got a CAT scan, and basically found out that I had fractured my skull. There's still nerve damage. It's still numb even over a month later. I was told that I couldn't work out for a month, and I couldn't even sneeze. After a week or so, it was rough, but at the end of the month, depression really started to hit in, and I found it very difficult to even want to get out of bed, to get up, to do anything. My anxiety levels were just completely disproportionately off the scale to where they normally are. And every day started kind of blending into the next, started blurring into the next, and started feeling exactly the same. This isn't a feeling that I normally have because I travel a lot. I love to experience the world and to go out and be around people and do things. And I'm constantly curious to learn new things, to stimulate my mind. And I think part of that is whenever you are around kids, you'll see this. There is this light bulb that goes off whenever they experience something new. There's this euphoria, this excited, ecstatic, just jaw-dropping experience that you see all, you've had it when you were a kid. You can barely go down a slide without just losing your mind at the novelty of this wonderful, completely amazing experience. And as you age, you start to lose that. You start to get lost in the mundane. Every day blends into the next. It feels exactly the same as the day before it. And you have this feeling of been there, done that. In this process, we lose what it means to be alive. We lose the novelty of life. And I think it's tragic. So how do we combat that? We combat it by trying to dive deep into something because, you experience a lot of stuff at a surface level and it's new and it's novel and it's exciting the first time. And then that novelty wears off. And so in order to continue to have that exciting chase of this, perpetual harvest of knowledge and information, we have to dive deep. And we dive super deep into new ideas. And it could be, into something as complicated as neuroscience or astrophysics, or it could be something as simple as learning all the ins and outs of gardening. Not that agriculture can't be an incredibly complicated thing, especially when you start getting into biology and stuff, but it's like you start to peel back the layers of life and realize that, oh my God, there's so much that I don't know. There's so much to be discovered. And it's just almost like a mental utopia that you stumble across. You're like, where has this been for the last decade? Where did it go? And a lot of religious people and Christians will substitute that depth with the illusion of depth. They'll take, a holy book and they'll open it up and they're told that this book has the answers. This book is the solution. It is divinely inspired. It is the deepest that you can go. It is the depth, not just into the natural world, but into the supernatural, outside, almost like a psychonaut diving into the mind, but exploring and finding a spiritual manifestation of the soul and God and this connection with the divine. The problem is, it's the illusion of depth. You open up a book and you see, oh, hey, this word in this verse, when you translate it into the original, it means this. And if you, compare that with the context over here with this other verse, then you start to interpret it this way. And that could be taken to mean all these other things. But it's not necessarily even how it was originally meant to be written. You're taking your own experiences and transplanting them onto the text. If depth and learning is the cure to meaninglessness and boredom and exhaustion with just the mundane aspects of life, then spiritual depth, in the absence of a spirit, in the absence of the supernatural, is simply the simulacrum to this cure. It is the placebo. You think that you're getting depth, but really it's simply a circle jerk and an exercise in futility. It's like you're constantly chasing God and you're told that you can have this connection with the divine, with this incredible, wow, like mind-blowing cosmic deity. And the fact that that deity would want to connect with you is the biggest ego boost you could possibly imagine. And so you show up at church and you raise your hands and you pray and you worship and you're constantly waiting and hoping for it, only to get eternal blue balls. And it's addictive. In the science of addiction, it's not the satisfaction, it's not the gratification of the thing that you think that you desire that causes you to desire it. It's the anticipation that releases this dopamine in our brains, that releases these chemicals that cause us to constantly want more. And so it's this chase. You show up to church, you open your Bible, you look for it, and you're just desperately wanting something deep. And it's that chase that is addicting, even if you don't find a God at the other end. You pick up the phone to talk, and even if you get a busy signal, it's the constant anticipation that maybe God is listening that keeps you picking up that phone. So that's one side to this coin of, when you're searching for meaning and purpose and stuff, is you have to have something deep and novel and fascinating and interesting and learn to grow and to learn and to improve and to grow as a human and to, push yourself to. And the other side to that is understanding that while you can be depressed, lacking this novel stimulation, you can be anxious in the over pursuit of perfection without being able to always attain it. And for that, I started realizing in this last month that over the course of the last 5 years, I've poured my heart and my soul into this channel. And I always try to make sure that each video is just as good or better than the one before it. Because I want you to know that, like, when you click on a video from my channel, it's gonna be good. But in that process, great becomes the enemy of good. And so often, we're our own worst critics, and we can get so caught up in this idea that what if it's not good enough? What if people tune in and they don't like it? And we get so worried about what other people might think and how they'll judge us and whether or not, people will still like my videos or click on it or watch it all the way through. And so we self-analyze in one of the most harmful, detrimental ways, where we're constantly chasing perfection to the point where we're terrified that if we don't hit it, then it's going to be a disaster. And so we don't even start. We don't even try. We don't even pursue it. And that's been something that has been crippling for me, is this analysis paralysis of, like, I'm analyzing everything in my head. Like, what do people want to see, without realizing that you have to let go. You can't be so caught up in what other people think about you. There's a certain healthy mental state where you have a stoic acceptance of the way things are. You know, I can go back and look at my original video, and sure, the effects and everything aren't nearly as great and as finely edited as my newest videos, but it's still me, and it's still authentic, and it's still genuine. So that's why I'm wearing this shirt, is to show that those two sides of the coin of pursuing perfection and learning and pushing yourself, while at the same time accepting the status quo and being content that, like, it's not always going to be perfect, and it doesn't always have to be. Sometimes you just continue to show up, and you continue to fight each day, and you keep putting one foot in front of the other. And so I understood for the first time why, for Christians, when they show up, there's this feeling that there's a God or a deity or some divine fatherly figure, you know, or motherly figure, depending on the religion, that accepts you no matter what and loves you no matter what and wants you no matter what. And it's kind of a cock tease. It's always just out of sight. It's never quite delivers. And it's sad because it's making promises to people that are without substance and are hollow. And I'm not saying that all ancient texts, that there's no proverbs or, you know, wisdom or value to be found. Sure, we can, you know, read through it all we want, and we can find value, and you can find poetry, and you can find beauty. And if it inspires you, fantastic. But when you look at it from that perspective as an atheist, I think it begins to make sense that you have the drive and the search and the chase, but then you also have the contentment. And when you couple those two things together and you find the balance, you're able to feel content, and you found something meaningful worth pursuing, and the purpose and satisfaction of feeling loved and accepted, even as you undergo this ongoing journey and chase. But the beautiful thing about this is that even if there's no God whatsoever, and, you know, you're purely a naturalist or an atheist, you can still have both of those things, and you can have them, I would argue, to a much deeper level. And I think that's a beautiful revelation and realization. Now, back to the shirt. My girlfriend gives me crap for still having this in my closet. You know, there's some holes and stuff around on it, and I've had it for a long time. But I think realizing that I had set the standards so high on my channel that I wasn't even getting stuff out there, and I wasn't able to release anything because I was, you know, fighting this anxiety, and I was depressed that I wasn't releasing anything. And I just realized, like, I had to kind of let it go. And that's why this whole video is sort of one weird long string of consciousness. It's just me being myself, being authentic, and kind of leveling with you that even if this video is not heavily edited, it's still me, and it's still me on my journey and my thought process, and trying to make the most of this life and help as many people as I can along the way, while realizing that, like, I've still got my battles and my struggles and stuff. And, you know, we'll get there together. So as always, dare to be curious, but don't drink the Kool-Aid. By the way, I have like a PayPal and a Patreon thing, and there's a notification bell at the bottom that actually makes you get notified for videos and stuff sometimes, but it's normally broken because YouTube and stuff, but you can hit it anyways and subscribe because, you know, why not? Oh my god, that wasn't the shirt from my first video. It was from my second.